Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Paul with Spheric Reptiles, and I thank you so much for tuning in. In this video, what I'm going to try to do is cover some of the things that new ball python breeders should be aware of from the mouths of actual breeders that are vending expos. I think in this video, because as you go to pairing your animals and ultimately have your clutches, this will help you to understand exactly what's needed for you to vend an expo versus selling online. Do what?
Where do I look? For you or the camera?
At both.
Okay.
So I'm here at Trophy Exotics, and I'm with Cindy and Kevin. We bought our Red Mountain boas from them, and they're doing great. Oh, and I'm sorry, I've never shown you the Red Mountain boas, the Dominican boas, but just wait for it. They'll be like maybe a year or so from now. But it's so good to see y'all again, and I do have a question so your advice on breeding ball pythons?
Don't do it. Unless you're gonna do pet only.
So
it's tough. It's a hard market.
And that's true, it is a hard market, so as in any sales, but I'm gonna ask Cindy some questions because Kevin is a little biased. And again, this is for new ball python breeders. So, but hey, you gotta make that decision on whether you get into it or not. But my question for you is, when it comes to breeding at reptile expos or online, which one do you feel is better or easier to do from a selling of snakes aspect?
I think, it's kind of, the market's kind of shifted because for a while we were selling more online than we were at expos. And part of that was we were newer to expos and not in as many. But I also just feel like there was more traffic on MorphMarket for us for a bit. But what I've really noticed is pretty ball pythons that are within a certain price range do really well at Expo. So it's a lot of pet people looking for pretty ball pythons that are maybe, under $300. Seems to be kind of a sweet spot where they move a little bit faster. And for MorphMarket, we tend to get people that are looking for specific genetics. So sometimes some of the more expensive animals that have a certain, genetics that people are looking for tend to be the ones that do better for us on MorphMarket versus at the pet shows.
Which makes sense. Like I always say, no one leaves the house to go to a reptile expo to spend $1,000. They might. That's not saying it won't happen, but that pretty much validates what I've been thinking in my head. And I know it's a big head and it's shiny right now, but like no one leaves the house and saying that I'm going to drop $1,000 on a snake. Well, back in COVID they did because of supply and demand. But that leads me to the next question. So if you are vending an expo versus online, which do you feel is better for the pet quality or the project animals? Because I know people are everywhere, but and I have my own opinions, but my opinion don't mean nothing.
I do feel like pet quality tends to be better for the expos. Is that what you were asking? Yeah, I do think so. But every once in a while we will, I guess it kind of goes back to pretty ball pythons. We'll have a customer that'll spend, a higher amount, $500, $600, $700 at an expo, just because they think the snake's really pretty, not even caring that it has maybe some recessives in it that make it more expensive.
That makes sense.
So I think it is on people's personal taste, and if it's something they've never seen before or don't see a lot of, that's when they tend to spend a little bit more for sure.
Okay. So one of the things that, I guess let me ask you, so if you're a new ball python breeder and you got something in the works that is truly different, would you recommend when they have those babies for them to, especially if the reptile expo is within 5 hours of them, would you recommend them putting it on, doing it trying to get the animal or selling the animal at a reptile expo or online?
I mean, generally we like to do both. So we pretty much have most of our animals that are at the shows with us also listed on MorphMarket because it kind of increases like the visibility for it. What I really like about the expos too, though, is if you have a special project, it helps you connect with other breeders that might be interested in that project, and you kind of build your community and can help each other work projects. So I think there's that social aspect of expos that you don't necessarily get I mean, you can get online, but it's different,
Right.
in person, people seeing them at the expos, other breeders.
It's definitely different when you see them in person, guys. And, we met them at a reptile expo, and since then, we've actually bought a pair of animals from them. They live within a very relatively short driving distance of us. So that's one of the benefits that I see in a reptile expo. But I thank you for giving that advice to our new ball or potential newly ball python breeders. I don't know, what do you call yourselves? I don't know if you call yourselves a new breeder or a potential breeder, a prospective breeder.
New balls.
New balls. I don't know.
And don't let Kevin jade you too much. I mean, people still love ball pythons, but
Yeah, they do.
I think it is good to have a focus and not overproduce. But yeah,
Exactly.
don't let him turn you off to it completely.
I like Kevin though. He is honest. And for a lot of you, if you're trying to make something that someone else is already making, what do I always say? Don't do it. Just go buy it. Try to make something that's different, because in that way it's worth your effort and your time, so that when you do come out with it, then there's going to be more people that are interested in that project. That's a soapbox talk. I'm always saying that same thing. I don't know if y'all are even listening, but I hope you are. Well, thank you so much
Thank you. It was so
for
good to
everything.
see you
And it was good to
guys.
see y'all too.
Yeah,
And we'll see y'all in just a little bit. So I'm here with Snakenstein with Chris, and I'm going to ask him a couple of questions just to see what he can tell you as a new ball python breeder what you should possibly be doing. So Chris, the first question I have for you is, are there any projects that you are avoiding?
I know it'll be a shocker to some people, but sunset's not for me
Okay.
right now. I just haven't seen the right combo for me to be like, I got to get that. I got to jump in on that.
Right. Well,
That need
like, so
more.
me personally, I think sunset just makes a brown snake, which, I'm just not trying to make more muddied out brown snakes. But what's your view of the sunset gene in general? Even though it's a great gene for some, by all means do what you want to do, but that's just my personal opinion.
Same concept for me is that it's going to take a lot of work on a recessive to bring out more of that color and definition. And I would rather spend that energy into something like Desert Ghost or Hypo than
Right.
spending it in a recessive project that you're going to have to throw multiple color and pattern enhancing genes into to get a reaction out of.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So on the flip side, what are some of the projects, or what gene do you see as like would be beneficial for a new ball python breeder to start now that they could possibly have and grow out to the 5-year point?
I mean, shockingly, I would honestly say start with something like Pied or bright colored genes, because that's what the general population looks for. They like the bright stuff, not the stuff that looks brown or just looks like a house snake or a yard snake or whatever they call it. Something that has color pop, something that looks different. Pieds are always going to attract people's attention. It's been that way for 20 plus years. It's not going to change the next 5. Right. So you're safe with Pied. You're always going to have something to work with. Granted, it's hard to sometimes ID Pied, so get a comfort on what you're working with before just jumping in and making a 95% white snake. But
Okay, that's a really good answer. I mean, I think that's something that you could use when you're trying to add genes on. Like you said, you don't want to start over from scratch with each new project. You want to move it forward. But the biggest question I have for you, and this is the last one, is if you could start over, how would you start over? Like, would you start over with certain projects, or how would you do that? Then you're like the new guy who's at home, or girl,
Man.
and she's got a couple of ball pythons and she's just wanting to get into this. So what would you do differently?
I've always attacked it from the standpoint of I'm doing it for what I like. So I didn't start like most people did. I started it with wanting to learn what reactions we're doing. I wanted to learn different key pieces. I wanted to understand better before I just jumped in and then got to going. So it's like some pieces, like this animal took me 8 years to get to.
Okay.
But it was because I wanted to build the building blocks in between. And that way, once I got
That's
to
cool.
to this point, I have an idea what I'm looking at, versus just jumping into 2 4-gene pairings and producing this monstrosity of variation and not having any idea what it was. So I started the hard way. I did it with single genes, double genes, single gene recessives. Like I did it the building block way, but that was enjoyable for me.
Right.
So that was, I wouldn't change that. I wouldn't go back and change that, because then you lose the being able to talk about that brown snake that you're going to hatch.
Right.
If you don't have the passion to be like, this is still an amazing animal. It might look like a normal, but its offspring can look like this.
Right.
So it's like being able to have that conversation and not feel like a car salesman to do it.
Exactly.
Like you can be like, no, this is still an amazing animal. Like,
Yeah, and that's true. And inevitably, guys, as you're pairing up your animals and you're trying to produce something incredible, right? You will end up with animals that look nothing like your end result. And so what Chris is talking about is when we look at this animal here, which is a leopard mahogany vanilla cream clown, he said it took him 8 years to get here. So that's what you got to be thinking about in your head, is that you got to put in the work to get the animals that you want. And it might take you 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years to get that animal. But when you do, like Chris said, if you're doing it from your heart and what you want, then you'll be really satisfied with what you get. So, hey, Chris, I thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it.
And it's finally good to get to talk to you. I've seen you at NARBCs and everything else, but didn't have the time because I was vending.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, you can find Chris on MorphMarket, which we do follow. He's Snake and Stein. He's based out of Odessa, Texas. And, you know, this show is in Abilene, so it's like midway for the both of us, from Dallas to Odessa. I guess this is the midway point. So, hey, guys, just check him out. And I'm pretty sure he's on Instagram as well. And I know that we follow him there as well. So we've been following you for over 3 years now. But, hey, guys, I just want you to just, if you have any questions for Chris, I'm pretty sure you can reach out to him on Instagram, maybe even Facebook, and also through MorphMarket Messenger. So that's one guy to think about, guys, and I think he gave you some really good advice. Yeah.
Focus over there. I gotta.
Whatever. Record him because he's actually working.
Yeah, you can record him cleaning.
Hey,
So,
he never cleans. This is the only time he cleans.
so guys, I just wanted to let y'all know this is the majority of what you're going to be doing if you vend a reptile show. You're going to be cleaning up poop, and you'll be talking to people, but you'll be coming back the next day to spot check all your animals, and that's one of the reasons that you got to make sure that you bring cleaning supplies. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here to talk to Ashley with TNR Reptiles. And so they've been doing it for a while. So this is one of the breeders that have been doing it more than 1 year. And what I want to ask you is, so compared to where you started to now, so how long have y'all been breeding and vending shows?
So we've been breeding since 2019. We've been vending shows for, what, 3 years now? Yeah.
Can you go around there beside?
Sure. So one of the questions that I have for you is, when you started out breeding, what were your thoughts on vending compared to now?
So it first started out, we were just breeding just to breed stuff for us. We weren't really thinking large scale. We weren't thinking that we were going to do shows. It took us probably 3 to 4 years in, and then we have all these babies and all these snakes, and we're like, uh-oh, how do we get rid of them? So we wanted to get out in the community and meet people and see kind of what people are looking for, stuff like that.
Okay, so at 7 years of breeding, guys, so if you're a new ball python breeder, just think that this is an investment in your time as well. So what are some of the things that caused y'all to decide on which shows to vend and which animals to take?
Yeah, so the breeding side of it is we're looking for colors, what kind of morphs are popular, what is a price point that people can pay.
Right.
You know, we don't want to get something super expensive and take it and people can't buy that. They're looking for something cheaper. Bright colors always sell. And then picking shows, we try to stay within about a 5-hour radius of our house.
Okay.
We do pick some bigger shows to go to, like Tennessee, Kansas City. We've done North Carolina. Yeah, we just kind of try to get new states, broaden our horizons. Yeah.
Okay, that's really good for you guys to start thinking about, is your radius from your home, because the further out you get, the more likely it is that you're going to have more fees. So you're going to have greater hotel fees, greater eating costs, the fuel costs, all of the logistics that go into that. But, you know, this is one of the groups that I look up to because, you know, remember, we've only been breeding now for 3 years. So, and I know from 3 to 7 might not seem like a lot, but it's a lot because you go through ups and downs. So for new breeders, what are, other than saying choose your own path and all of that other stuff, what advice would you give to someone that's just now, they're at home, they're thinking about breeding, they have the animals? What's the best advice you could give them when it comes to, I guess, managing their finances?
I would definitely say go the recessive route.
Okay.
Make sure you invest in good quality. Clowns is a big one right now. Just kind of find what recessive project you want to work and then mix in your codoms with it.
Okay.
Or your dominant genes. Just to where you're not duplicating out things. You might like the leopard, but you want to get into clown. So you want to make sure, get you a leopard het clown, get a clown leopard to where you're not getting 6 different snakes whenever you could have doubled this down to 1 snake.
All right. Okay. That's really good, guys, to be more streamlined and efficient in your pairings, and it leads to more focus. As I always say, in trying to create something that's new, you got to start out with something that's known first. So I really appreciate this interview. Give me a hug.
It was so good to see you.
And they know the greatest sushi place in North Richland Hills. I'm telling you, if you're ever near North Richland Hills, Texas, stop by. What's the name of the sushi place? I forgot.
Sushi Avenue.
Sushi Avenue. And I mean, it's awesome. I mean, you get great service. But anyway, that's a sidebar. All right, guys. So for my final breeder for you, if you're a new breeder that's considering how to sell your animals or what you need to do, I'm going to come to talk to Bryce with SMS Morphs, and he's based out of Longview, Texas. And so, Mr. Bryce, you've been vending for over 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
About 12.
About 12 years. And so my question to you is, if you were just considering where to sell your ball pythons, and you've been large shows like Tinley, and you're also breeding local shows like this one in Abilene, how would you suggest or structure that if you're a new breeder into which one you would choose, or what would you advise him to do?
Biggest thing with ball pythons is get what you want, you like to look at. And now it's kind of hard to do that with certain projects because you know it might not be what it looks like now, but it's what you can make with it if you're getting into the breeding aspect of it.
Okay.
So you got to get into the different projects. Really hard to get into. The smaller shows, they don't have a lot of project animals most of the time. There are some projects. Now your bigger shows, they tend to have more project animals, like the newer projects, because of the price range on them. But it just all depends on what you're wanting to get into, what kind of price range you're looking at.
Okay. So when you say price ranges, so what would you say a Tinley, like the average Tinley animal would be? Because Tinley is one of the biggest shows, right? For ball pythons, it is the most important show.
I mean, ball pythons at Tinley can run up to $20,000 to $40,000.
Wow, that's a lot of money. But
I mean, there are a lot of price range down below that, but in new project animals, they're going to run up to at least $20,000 to $40,000.
Okay. So if someone is at home and they may need just a few more animals, do you think it would be possible for them to come to a smaller local show?
Oh, yeah.
And find their project animals?
Oh, yeah.
And how much should they expect to spend on a double recessive animal?
I mean, like we've got one that's got moray, which is monsoon type, with ultra male. It's running about $3,500.
Okay. I mean,
it's got other
pretty
genes
good
in it, but you know, just a double recessive monsoon ultra male, about $3,500.
Well, that's pretty good advice. So for the new breeder that's getting in, what advice could you give them to avoid? Like, what should they avoid when they're thinking of vending a show or when they're trying to make that leap into selling their animals?
To selling their animals? I mean,
Right. Like, is there something that you could say like that they
really.
should watch out for? Or?
Each show is different. Every time we go to an expo, you never know what people are looking for. I mean, we can go to one show that somebody asked for. I'll be at the next show and they're looking for something totally different. It just depends on what's going on, videos, what they get into looking at during that week. So every show is going to be different.
Okay.
But
that's an important
biggest thing that I would think on, especially new beginners that are trying to get into breeding.
Maria, it's up front.
Get your females first. They take a lot longer to get up to size, and then start looking for your males and multi-gene males and stuff like that.
Okay. Do you often have females that go off of food that takes them longer than 2.5 years?
Some of them can.
Okay.
There are ball pythons, they can be picky eaters sometimes.
Okay.
You just got to figure out what their quirk is, if they need a smaller tub or get the temperature right or whatever. But some of them can be kind of picky on eating. Take a little bit longer to get up to size.
Y'all heard it. You better get that husbandry right or you're not going to have anything to breed anyway. But hey, Bryce, I thank you so much for the advice. And guys, look, I'm going to people that are doing this right now. So I know everybody has a different story, but the number one thing that I want you to hear from each one of the breeders that we talked about was consistency and knowing what you're doing. So if you ever start to question, reach out to somebody before you continue to make that mistake and, make something incredible. So if you stuck around to this part of the video, I made it home from Abilene. So we went out to eat and we looked at some furniture and all that other stuff because we're moving, right? So this is the last time you'll get to see this snake room, dining room. I know I got towels up everywhere. I'm still pairing up animals because we did start pairing up a little bit later. But anyway, if you stuck around to this part of the video, I have some pearls of advice that I think that you should do as a new breeder, right? So, and you heard all of the other breeders and what they said is 100% correct. But what I would like for you to do is to just really fine tune that. So if you're trying to create something special, this will be my recipe. You can buy them all at the same time. I know some people say get your females first and then get your males later. Look, get them while you can, because if you've been watching MorphMarket trends, there are fewer animals available or different animals available every year. So if you come across an animal that you really like and you've already made your plan and you got your breeding project down packed, so go ahead and get that male. I'm not going to say wait on anything because you can probably haggle a little bit more right now than you might be able to do later. See, the market might rebound and then some animals might be in higher demand and then you're stuck behind the 8 ball paying more for something that you normally wouldn't. Now, for your females, I'm going to say if you're a breeding project, this is what I would do is if I could start over completely, right? So I would buy my TSK Hypo male and then I would go and find a puzzle het desert ghost female. And then I would go and find either a monsoon, I'm trying to think, what did I say earlier, baby? Let's see, something that was different. So, but anyway, I'm gonna remember this because I'm not too old, even though I'm over 50, which I don't know if you guys knew that. So that puzzle het desert ghost, and then I would probably go and get some other random recessive trait. So maybe a pied clown, right? And I would breed those together. And so in what you're going to do, you only have 3 animals, right? And you're putting all your eggs in one basket. And you can add on another visual het female if you want. But what I would truly do if I could start all over is I would make quad hets. I'll make those quad hets. And it might take 2.5 or 3 years to get that. And the older your animals that you buy from previous videos where I've discussed that, I would try to buy them as a juvenile or subadult. It'd be really hard to find those animals in an adult form. So that's why I'm saying juvenile or subadult. I would raise them up, I would breed them, and I would keep, 2.4 of the animals. So if you have a clutch of 6, I will keep them all. Because right now, you're not depending on this money for anything, but I would get those animals, raise them up, I would breed them together and make visuals. So that way you'd have at least 2 different breeding projects going in 2 different directions. But the biggest thing is that you would be creating animals that would be in high demand. I guarantee you right now today, which is April the 18th, 2026, right? If you were to breed a visual TSK Hypo male to a puzzle het desert ghost female and test those babies to see if they're desert ghost, that would be an animal that's in high demand, no matter what. And then if you were to make that visual in 2.5 years, and you're not telling anybody, right? You're just doing this. Like, you got your animals, now you're gonna raise them up. Your males will reach sexual maturity a little bit faster, so you get to breed them to something else if you have other animals. But if you bred those animals together, then you would end up with something that's truly amazing, and you would have something that breeders would want, and then you'd be able to get top dollar. But anyway, that's the advice that I would give. When it comes to vending reptile shows versus selling online, I think selling online is a lot easier, requires less time from you, but you got to pick your battles. It depends on which price point that you're getting into. If you're getting into the pet quality animals, then you'd want to vend more shows because that's where people buy more of those animals. It's more diluted down online, like MorphMarket. Now, if you have the project animals, then those probably do not move as fast at the reptile shows unless you go to one of the top three. And the top three to me are, in this order, Tinley, Pomona, and Daytona. If you go to those shows and you have top tiered animals, then you're more likely to get people that are wanting to buy those project animals there. But if you run that animal that's that $15,000 or $20,000 or $10,000 animal to a Repticon, a Herp show, a Lone Star Expo, any of those shows, you're probably not going to have anybody want to buy that snake because, again, when they go to those type of shows, those are pet quality shows. Like, just being honest, no one's leaving the house saying I'm going to spend $1,000 on a snake at those shows. But if you go to Tinley, Pomona, or Daytona, people are actually going there because this is an investment for them for their business. Now, they are 100% business minded, and they're already, if you have the snake, they might get in touch with you ahead of time. But anyway, that's what I got, man. That's what I got. This is the last time in the snake room. Yeah, you won't even get to see this anymore when we move. So we're getting racks and everything else. You know, luckily we just came across in a community somebody who's selling racks. So, you know, just moving in a different direction, not getting out, but just doesn't have the time to take care of animals anymore because this person is creating things that we actually need in supplies like racks and stuff like PVC racks. But anyway, man, I've enjoyed this little space. Kind of getting emotional about it, but the transition will be great because the snakes will have their own freaking room. And again, I thought I was going to cuss, but I didn't. So, hey guys, look, one thing I always say is enjoy that time to spend with your reptiles because it truly is an amazing hobby, and cherish those people that you spend every day with. And even the ones that you don't, that you love, call them up, tell them that you love them. Thank you.